Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jay Michaels, and we're talking about my favorite subject right now, and that's nostalgia. For those of you who know me, you know I love my old TV. I love my old movies. And I'm a comic book guy, so you can only imagine there. I came across working with the Drama Bookshop in New York City, a really compelling author. Now, at this point, I was chatting with him about radio drama, talk about nostalgia. And then we got into conversations about some of his book, and I was really amazed. I'm introducing you now to Barry M. Putt Jr., and we're going to talk about some of his books. Now, when I was looking for a nice background for this, I knew he had a book on Alice, the TV series Alice, the classic TV series, and then I discovered he did something on the Hardy Boys and so many other things, and I was really amazed. So I thought, this is someone that you all need to meet. Barry, it is great to see you again. How's everything with you?
Great, Jay. It's great to talk with you today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Same here, same here. Okay, let's get into it. Firstly, like I asked you before I pressed record, you're a nostalgia guy. This is you're into the good old days.
Definitely. I love the shows and old movies from really the silent era up till today. And TV shows, sitcoms are one of my favorites. Also, superhero shows, a lot of different shows I love.
All righty. So maybe you'll answer this question for me, because I sit there and rack my brain and wonder why I'm a professional geek. Why? Why do we love nostalgia? Why do we go back to the suspension of disbelief of Gilligan's Island? Why do we go back to that?
Wow, I mean, that's a great question. I think they're fun. They remind us of there's a fantasy element to them that we engage in, right? You know, Gilligan's Island. I think we love the characters, the situations. I think it's a blend of all of that, and how we personally relate to those things as well.
Do you think you say fantasy element, and that hit me really hard. That's a great word to put it that way. Do you think we live vicariously through these characters? Because let's face it, Gilligan's Island couldn't exist. The professor couldn't build a raft, but he made a radio out of two coconuts. So is there like do we live vicariously, like we're on a desert island with our buddies? It's almost like, do we feel this catharticness when we go back to these old shows?
I definitely think there's a degree of it. I mean, one of my favorites is Bewitched. And I know I just loved like all the magic. You know, I when I was maybe even now, but definitely when I was younger, I thought, wouldn't that be just cool, that we could do something like that. So I think that there's that connection to it.
I'd love to know that my father and mother are Agnes Moorehead and Maurice Evans, but that's another story entirely. So it's that fantasy element. Excellent. Okay, so now let's get to you now. Now behind me we have a book on Alice. Now Alice was a very realistic series. When we're talking about living vicarious, this is not one to say, wow, I wish I was a single mom trying to raise my family and all of that. It's a very realistic show. Why did you grab Alice? What made you want to explore that show?
It was one of my favorites. I watched it in reruns growing up, and I think it was the characters and the situation really that drew me into it. Those are the primary reasons. It is a sitcom. It is definitely more realistic, more grounded in reality than like some other shows. But I think that really is what drew me into it.
So you like the reality of it almost. You like seeing these characters problem solve, for lack of a better term.
I do, and I also really like the crazy situations that they get themselves into. That's definitely something that I've liked. I think ever since I saw I Love Lucy, and there is definitely a very strong connection actually between I Love Lucy and Alice.
That's a really good point. I think Lucille Ball opened the door for every female comedian, every female performer in sitcoms. I think anyone owes it to Lucille Ball on that level. Anyone of that persona.
I agree. I'd just like to state that actually, Madeline Davis and Bob Carroll Jr., they were a writing team. They worked with Lucille Ball on her first show, My Favorite Husband, which was a radio series. Then that was adapted right into I Love Lucy with Debsy Arnaz. They worked on Here's Lucy. They wrote for her Here's Lucy. I'm sorry, I'm skipping. The Lucy Show, Here's Lucy. And then her final show, Life with Lucy. But they also were the producers of Alice.
Really?
They were.
I just learned something. Okay, well, that answers a big question, how Alice became a classic series also. Not only the writing of it, the creation of it was the foundation of it was quite strong right there. Okay, so we're talking about writing. Let's talk to you about that. How do you go about researching a TV series or a show such as Alice? How did you go about creating this book?
Well, there's a couple of different ways that I researched. Print anything that was published or unpublished. I read some of the scripts. I read a lot of articles and interviews. Then I reached out to all the cast and crew that I could find, and I spoke to everyone that responded to me. So I spoke to all of them, and then I also watched the show. There's 202 episodes, and I watched them at least 3 times each, and I pulled out personal observations. The episode log that's in the book, that's where that came from. And also some other specific, qualities that are in the book, lists and the story world, all of that came from just my personal observation.
Wow. Okay, I'm nosy. Which performers returned your call?
Let's see. Well, there was a number of them. I talked to, I talked to Vic Tabak's son. I talked to a number of guest stars on the show. I talked to one of the writers of the show, which was really interesting, just in a technical sense, that he said he was when they started writing the show, that was when they first started to use computers. This was the early 80s. So the show had not used computers when it was in the 70s. But just from a technology kind of standpoint, that was kind of interesting. And I talked to some people on, so Alice was part of what I call a trilogy. There was the feature film, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And then the spinoff of that was the sitcom Alice. And then off of Alice, there was a sitcom called Flo, which dealt with the character Flo, Polly Holly. Right. So I spoke to a number of people on that show as well, including some of the actors that were on the show. Joyce Bulifant, I spoke with her. And wow.
That is great. Oh my goodness. 3 times each episode. Oh my goodness. There's dedication and there's dedication. Wow. Okay. So now we have this amazing book about this amazing series. Great. Now you also did one on the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. Is this true?
That's correct. I'm writing that one currently. Okay.
What drew you to that one? Because that's going way back. We can't even call that TV. That's that's the book series, and I think they did movie serials of it or whatever. That goes way back. But there was a TV series of the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. That's right, there was also. What drew you to that one?
I think I first became interested in them through the Benita Granville films. There were Nancy Drew films from the late 1930s.
Right.
And that book is called The Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew on Film, TV, and Stage. And it has a chapter on every single production from 1930s up until the present day. I've interviewed almost 100 people so far for the book and counting. But yeah, let's see, some interesting things. There have been some feature films, Nancy Drew feature films, but there has never been a Hardy Boys feature film. A number of TV series. There was one in the 1950s of the Mickey Mouse Club. There was an animated show in 1969. There was also the 1977 Hardy Boys with Parker Stevenson and Sean Cassidy that a lot of people are very familiar with. One in the 90s, one just a couple of years ago, I think in 2020, they had a Hardy Boys. It was a production between Canada and the US.
Wow, so we're expecting a very thorough tome on the Hardy Boys. And who knew they had such a rich history?
Yeah, and 1927 was when the books were first published. So we're coming up on the 100th anniversary, actually.
Wow.
Of them. And Nancy Drew was first published in 1930. So, that isn't too far behind.
What's your mission when you pick a nostalgic piece? Like I'm a sci-fi and horror film guy, so I can quote chapter and verse for The Twilight Zone, The Outer Limits, etc. But I wouldn't know the first thing about Alice, about the Hardy Boys or whatever, because that's not my genre. Is there a particular genre? Is there a particular mission that you go for when you draw back the curtain to the good old days?
Well, I guess there's a couple of things. I mean, definitely I have to really like it. That's the first thing. Also, I think it's part of my mission is that I want to tell a fun, verified, behind the scenes telling of how these things came about. Verified facts are really important. Also fun, but I want to keep it that these are things that really happened. That's really important in my writing process.
So it's not so much you're looking for mysteries, you're looking for comedies, you're looking for whatever. You're looking for a something you could tell a whole story on, that we could really learn its history.
Definitely. I mean, the books that I write, they're film and TV history. They're kind of like a biography, except for the TV shows.
Right. Do you have any others that you're planning? Anything back here that you said, I think I need to tackle that show, and nobody's talked about this one? Is there anyone that's there after the Hardy Boys goes to print?
I have some things that I'm thinking of. I'm actually looking to move on to biographies, and I have a couple of people that I'd like to write, and again in the film and TV area. But that's what I'm hoping to move on to after the Hardy Boys.
Okay. I always ask this question, and I grit my teeth when I do, but we talk about art, and I always want to talk about art, but then there's that other thing we got to talk about. When you choose a topic, in your mind, do you ever have that moment of saying, who's going to read this? Like when you created Alice, did you say to yourself, okay, I know there's a fan base, I know there's a group, so they'll buy my book? When you're doing the Hardy Boys, do you say, okay, well, because of this, and this, there's an audience, they're going to buy my... Do you think about who's going to buy your book?
I definitely do. That's a great question. Sometimes in other types of writing that I do, I don't think of that. But as my work as an author, I always think of that. And when I wrote Alice, the book about Alice, I made sure that there was a large community of fans on Facebook and other different places in social media. And also the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, I did the same. That's kind of a generational type of fans, right? There's a lot of different levels of fans for the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. And I think just the fact that they're still making movies and TV series based off of those characters shows the I guess the relevance and the longevity of them, and the continuing fans. So sorry.
You think it's the joy of it that does this? Because I think to myself, did we really need a new Bewitched movie? And this is like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate. Why did we need to call them the Hardy Boys? Why couldn't it just be two guys that are, solving mysteries? Why do we need to go back to those names? Why do we need to, and you're a superhero guy too, so I can say this, why do they exist? Why do we must hear Spider-Man? Why do we must hear Superman? What is it about these names? Why can't we create something new? Why do we return always to those thrilling days of yesteryear? Why do we need that?
I think it's partially, it brings us back to our childhood. And I think that at least for the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, when the initial readership for that book, right? Those were like in the teens that were reading it, and a little younger. Those characters were people that were their age and were doing something really important, right? They were solving crimes and doing larger things than is expected maybe of people at that age. And that really brings a strong connection. And I think that that's something that just carries on as we, in the fans, once they latch on to that.
That's absolutely brilliant. I never put that together. It's like, okay, there we are as kids or young people or whatever, and we're watching these shows, we're reading these books, whatever, and we're seeing our contemporaries in terms of age doing something so important, doing something so mature. And so it sort of allows us to know that we can do the same thing.
Right. It affirms value. It affirms that we have value. That the readership has value and can do things, definitely.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. You're solving my mystery of 50 years, why I will run and watch the Avengers again and things like that. Quick crossover with the Alice, and then I want to talk about you as an author for a little bit. A lot of Alice's cast were Broadway people. Linda Lavin, all of them were on Broadway at some point or another. They even created roles on Broadway. Do you think that lent to the success that you had these Broadway people, the Broadway talent, if you will, play these roles? Because we see this a lot now. There's a lot of series out there where if you look close, there's a lot of Broadway people that are in them. Do we think that contributes to the success of a series?
I think that the diversity of the talent that is in the show definitely is important. And I think Linda Lavin is a great example of that. The other actors, I'm just trying to think back on their journeys. I know that some of them, I found it fascinating when I was researching the book, how some of them had similar struggles. And let me just take the actor that played Vera, for example. She and she's the shy, right? She's the shyer of the waitresses. She moved to New York City with a friend when she was 16 years old to pursue a career in acting. And I just thought, wow, that is, fascinating to be that age and be able to have that, direction to do something on your own. And I found that several other actors on the show, mostly the waitresses, had similar journeys where they tried to pursue, a career, then they would go to school, and then they got a couple of breaks, and that led them to their big, a bigger break that helped them establish an ongoing career.
The actress who played Vera, forgive me, I don't remember names, but she, if I remember correctly, created a role in the Broadway show Company.
She did, yes. So she was also in theater, definitely.
Yeah. I think the actress who played Flo either was in theater beforehand or ended up being in theater. Vic Tayback, I know, was a film actor. I'm not sure if he was a stage actor also.
Not that I recall you, but Polly Holiday, she actually studied theater. And she she studied theater in college, and she was in a number of professional plays in Florida before she did film and TV.
There you go. I think it's the resilience. I think it's the, like you said, coming to New York at 16 and trying for a career, and the rejection and the fortitude that you need. I think that probably enhances their performances on camera. It makes you that much stronger when you're so used to standing on a line somewhere hoping someone chooses you.
Yeah, and Alice was taped before a live audience, so in some ways it kind of parallels a stage play, right? And Beth Howland, she was the one that played Vera.
You reminded me of that. That's right. The good old days of television, it was before a live audience.
Yes.
Ah, I always admired Carol O'Connor and Gene Stapleton in All in the
Oh,
Family, because they were able to master that audience. They knew to hold. They knew how to get that audience to just roar at every one of their remarks. And of course, they were both stage actors beforehand. That makes total sense.
wow. Now,
Wow.
I will say one other thing about Alice is that they did shoot the show in front of a live audience, but the reaction shots, the close-ups, they were done the same evening, but after the audience left. So whenever you see a reaction of just one actor, it's actually done as a pickup shot later that day. But the you know the basic show was always done before a live audience.
I think that's great. I think that is absolutely wonderful. Now, in my research of you, when I typed in your name and I got your Amazon hits and everything else, because you're on every bookseller's list possible, I see so many other things. I saw a children's book. I saw other things go by there. Tell us about you. Tell us about Barry the author. Oh, we turned off the TV. What else we got from you?
Okay, so yeah, I have written. I've done some children's book writing. For a picture book, I have done a lot of audio drama writing, so of script writing for a number of companies here in the U.S., in Canada, and in China, and a whole bunch of different genre, including a lot of adaptations, some sci-fi, some mystery. I also do. We just got approval for a 4th season of a Western that I write. And so that's my audio drama. But back to, I guess, as an author, I wrote a book last year called Stories Told Through Sound, which is for writers. And it is about how to write an audio drama script and the opportunity that's out there for audio dramatists. And one other thing that I'm doing is I'm about to, I just got a contract with a publisher to co-write the first ever resource book for audio dramatists, similar to the writer's market, but it's solely for audio dramatists looking for companies that are interested in receiving and producing new scripts from writers or hiring writers to bring them in to write for them. So that will be coming out next year.
Wow. Okay, so let's peel back a stereotype here. When you say audio drama, we're thinking radio drama, we're thinking that's bygone days. We don't do that anymore. It sounds like that's a real stereotype, that this is having its own renaissance. Tell us about your journey in audio drama.
Okay, sure. So yeah, well, audio drama has been around for about 110 years.
Really?
It started in 1914. And then it was kind of the television of its day. From the 20s up until really to the late 40s, and then TV came in, and then it's always been around, but it definitely is having a kind of a new renaissance. I think largely because of podcasts, and right, that our storytelling media or our devices to listen to and consume, different shows can be done on our cell phone, in our car. It's much more accessible, and can travel with us. So definitely within like the last 7-8 years, I've seen a large pickup on new audio drama productions and companies. And I will tell you that in 2017, according to the audio-drama.com, which is kind of a clearinghouse for everything audio drama related, there were 3,000 worldwide audio drama outlets. Now there's 9,500. So in 7 years, it like over tripled. So there's definitely something wonderful going on there.
Do you think, and I'm going back to my art versus commerce, do you think it's because we're so busy and we don't have time to read, so we want an audio drama? Or do you think we want our imaginations to grow? We're tired of CGI telling us what to think. It's now time to let our imaginations flow. Do you think it's art versus commerce?
Wow, I mean, I definitely think, yeah, there's a blend of it there, right? I think it's our busy lives, shorter stories. A lot of the audio drama done today is shorter, half hour, sometimes even shorter than that, 10 minutes, an episode will be 10 minutes. And also it's at your control, right? I think we want things in our control. We can pull that up whenever we want. So if we can't listen to the whole thing, we can come back to it the next time we're able to listen to it. And it's under our control when we listen.
So we want to keep our imaginations fertile, but at the same time, we want to do it according to our busy schedule.
Right. Exactly.
Very, very interesting. Wow. I'm really amazed at that, and I'm really thrilled. I used to love old radio drama, and I had the old records that they made of The Shadow and The Lone Ranger and all of that. And so I'm thrilled to hear that's returning. And I think I'm thrilled that people want to feed their imaginations, whether they need to do it in the car or relaxing. I'm thrilled that we're feeding our imaginations, and I'm thrilled that you're helping us feed that imagination. Okay, tell us where to find you. We got audio drama to look for. We got the Hardy Boys. We got Alice. We have children's stories. We have everything. You're going to keep us busy for a while. How do we find you? Where do we find you?
Well, the best place to go would be my website, which is just my name, BearManor.com. That's the best place to go.
Cool. And if we wanted to get any of your books, where are you listed? Now, I made the blanket comment that you're like wherever fine books are sold. Where are we? If we had to suddenly type, where are we going to find your books?
You can really find them in any bookstore, major and minor bookstores. All bookstores will carry them, including the audio dramas. I have some audio dramas on CD and digital download. Those are available in those places. And I do want to just mention I have a new version of Beauty and the Beast coming out through Blackstone Audio this fall.
Oh, very cool. Now, yes, at fine bookstores. But for those of us who are so busy that we have to listen to audio drama because we can't get to bookstores, are you on Amazon?
Yes, Amazon. My audio dramas are on Amazon, and my books are also on Amazon, as well as iTunes, Barnes and Noble, Spotify for the audio dramas. I'm trying to think of the others. Those are just a few, but really all major. I know the audio dramas are all major podcast distributors. That's where they are available.
Great. So basically, if we typed in BarryMPuttJr.com, we have a cavalcade of imagination going from audio drama all the way through to our treasured TV series, and it all has your name on it.
I guess, yes.
That is absolutely terrific. I applaud you as a fellow nostalgia lover. I applaud you for taking these shows and saying, okay, let me show you who wrote them. Let me show you their foundations. Let me give you their history and make them legit, if you will. And thank you for keeping audio drama alive. The great radio play is in good hands when it's with Barry Putt Jr. Barry, it's great to speak to you again. I had a blast with you at the Drama Bookshop when you were talking about one of your audio books. And this was really great. This was informative. I'm really thrilled. Let me know what's going on as a lover of the old days. Keep in touch with me and tell me all the good stuff that's happening from your desk. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Jay. It was wonderful talking with you and thinking about all of those shows and stories.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Here's to many more.
Thank you.
Thanks.